It's an immense pleasure for me to welcome you and greet you here in Geneva. To all of you first of all, to all of you who came from all over the place, of course from Switzerland, but also France, UK, Sweden, Norway, Algeria, Morocco, Jura. All over the world, people are here today. And I want to also, before we start, to thank the organizers for the hard work, the dedication, and all of them are here. If you see them, thank them. They did a lot of work. Of course, I also want to thank the Sheikh Imran Hosein for the honor and his friendship, and to be here, of course, with us today. So, as we say in Switzerland, bienvenue, willkommen in Schweiz, bienvenue en Suisse, benvenuti in Svizzera, and as they say in France and in the UK, merhaba. Jokes aside, the topic of today is very important. First, and I wanted to start to understand who you are. We are about 320 people, and I would like to ask, in this room, who is a Muslim? Okay, a majority of people. Who is Catholic? Okay, Protestant? Not so many. Orthodox? Okay. Jewish? No. Buddhist or other Eastern religions? Atheist? No religion at all? Or agnostic? Okay. So majority of Muslim. I want to ask because I believe it's very important, and it's sad that we don't have all the representation that are possible, because it's very important that we learn from each other, we discuss, and we learn to be open-minded and discuss between ourselves without the preconceptions that the media puts in our mind. So, what is the state of the world today? A few years back, when I started to realize that the world was not exactly as what I thought it was, yesterday evening at dinner we were asking what was the precise moment, and for me the precise moment I realized that something was wrong in the world was when Colin Powell showed at the United Nations his little tube full of something to justify war against Iraq. So it's about 10 years that I've been researching, and that's the material of my books, where we are today in reality. So if we take a step back, if you look at 10,000 or 12,000 years ago, in 10,000 before Christ, the population of the world was 5 million people. In the year 1, year 0 in our calendar, population was 300 million in the world. When Napoleon was defeated in 1815, it was 1 billion. So it took a lot of time to reach 1 billion people in the world. In 1920, we were already 2 billion. In 1970, we were 4. In 2000, we were 6. Today, in 2015, we're 7.3. United Nations estimate that in 2050, we will be 10 billion. All these people consume resources. We all consume resources. The poorest Africans or Indians want to consume the way Chinese do. Chinese want a house, not anymore a bicycle, but a car, a TV, and they want to consume like Japanese or Europeans do. The Europeans and the Japanese, they want to live like Americans. That means we consume resources at an increasingly high speed. Resources like oil, but of course minerals like copper, iron, aluminium, etc., etc. These resources are not infinite. They are limited. And therefore, the more we consume, the more there are people, the more we unreasonably consume them, the more they become scarce. The result also of consumption is pollution and destruction of the environment. Often we believe that we live in a non-religious world, but in reality it is a religious world. We live in the religion of progress. And it is believed that any progress is good. But how can we have progress and therefore grow? We cannot have infinite growth in a finite world. This is not news. This is something that in the 1970s was already realized. But of course, we did nothing about it. So this is an important element to remember, that we are in a world that is, whose resources are being depleted. Now let's take another element. Who rules the world today? In 1945, the United States of America was 50% of the world industrial output. Of course, it helps that the rest of the world was leveled. Now, the United States of America and its parent corporations, to keep dominating the world and keep this dominance, have based their strategy on two big elements. First of all, perpetual war, which makes us joke with the Sheikh that Pax Americana has not a lot of Pax and is not really very Americana. And the second element is, of course, the dollar as the world reserve currency. So the United States was actually lucky to have the Soviet Union as an opponent, because it could justify continuous war after the World War II. And Korea, Vietnam, all the wars in Latin America were extremely profitable for the military-industrial complex that President Eisenhower denounced. And it was extremely valuable for the United States that the energy, which is mostly oil, could be bought with the dollar, and only with the dollar. The problem with war is that while it is profitable for a few industries and people, it is not extremely constructive and profitable for society. So the United States found itself in the late 1960s bankrupt. And this is why President Nixon in 1971 finished to decouple completely the dollar to the gold. And since 1971, the United States has been living exclusively on debt. Remember that the only money that is valuable in the world is gold and silver. The other big problem that the United States started to face in the 1970s is that since 1970 precisely, we are discovering every year less and less oil. We have reached the peak discovery of oil fields in 1970. And it is a coincidence, let's say, that the United States, the Carter and Brzezinski doctrine in the 1970s refocused the strategic goal for the United States with the redeployment in the middle of the Cold War, the redeployment of 3 armored divisions from Germany to the Middle East, which obviously were used in the Gulf War in 1991. The 1970s, and of course the realization that there was no more new discoveries of oil, finished the process that started in 1930 to replace the United Kingdom to control the Middle East and, of course, Saudi, Iran. So war and oil and the dollar are the ways America controls the world. Unfortunately for them, after China and now Russia are back, because first of all, manufacturing from America has been outsourced into China. And so China became an industrial giant. And Russia is back as a military and an energy giant. And those two countries, Russia and China, are now allied and more economically integrated. The horror for maritime powers that were the UK and then the United States is to see a continental power. And what bigger continental power than Russia and China working economically and militarily together with Iran, with Brazil, with India, Venezuela, Ecuador, and many others. The United States and their owners are scared. They see that time is running against them. they cannot continue to keep their power in today's world. Every day, they're nearer and nearer an impossible bankruptcy. And yet their current power makes them incredibly corrupt. Because again, the military, industrial, and banking complex are not managed by free market. They are managed as a planned economy, as a socialist economy for the rich and for the powerful. And when you look in the street, you see millions of poor people. 44 million Americans do not have a house, do not live in a house. And that means the ideology, because I believe ideology is very important. The ideology of America is collapsing. And if the ideology collapses, if the economy is collapsing, if the country is in bankruptcy, if the military is decreasing, and the military capacity also is collapsing, what does it mean? It means that the biggest economy and the biggest military power in the world is entering chaos. And this means it's very dangerous. Because this is not the army of Zaire. Sorry for Zaire, but this is an army with 6,000 nuclear warheads. And I don't know you, but I don't like to have irrational people who are scared and irrational with 6,000 nuclear warheads. If the economy collapses in the United States, it means the economy collapses everywhere in the world. And such a collapse can have catastrophic consequences for people around the world, especially in the cities. Because we are relying on a very complex and efficient economy to get our food, our water, our medicine, our electricity, our transports. And when this is going to be missing, how are people going to react? In a world where people have been brainwashed, became stupid because of television, because of consumerism, because of immediate gratification for every one of their pulsions and needs. I don't think they're going to react very well. So the long crisis we're in can become a very short, brutal, acute crisis very fast. So the leaders in America, it's not Bush and Obama, by the way, they understand that. And they are panicking. And I also think they are very incompetent. Or maybe they're crazy. Or all of the above. But they know that time is running against them. And they must act. They must act to keep their power and to keep their dominance on the world. And so far, the only way they did that is to create chaos, to create war, to create tensions between people, tensions between communities, tensions between religions. And this is impacting us. Good friend and journalist Pepe Escobar described this process very well also in his book Empire of Chaos. Because in chaos, people are scared. And when you're scared, you go to mommy. Mommy United States. Mommy dollar. So the United States is ready to kill millions of people so that they keep their dominance of the dollar and the control of the energy sources of the world. And again, my analysis is one that is very materialistic, empirical, and it does not preclude other analysis that we will hear in a few minutes. But it does explain why there has been created chaos in Iraq, in Libya, in Syria, and soon in many other places. And I believe soon here. So NATO, and of course which is the armed forces of America really, go from one destruction to another, one disaster to another. And these politicians, which are criminals, Sarkozy's, the Hollande, the Fabius, the Camerons, the Obamas, the Bush, why not in jail? Why are they not in front of the firing squad? After a failed trial, of course. Now we see this process moving into Europe. Because, to come back to what I said before, this chaos does have an objective to also destroy Russia. Because again, Russia is a powerful military, has a powerful economy, and it is still the place where there is the most reserves of energy. And so it has to be destroyed, or at least controlled. But you cannot control Vladimir Putin. So you have to destroy the country. So that process started a long time ago with the wars in ex-Yugoslavia. But now it gets near Russia with Ukraine. And before that in Georgia and the Caucasus. But Russia is not Saddam Hussein's Iraq. Russia has indomitable people. 26 million dead in World War II to win the war. And they won. Russia is also a very sharp military industry. This is not second-hand export tanks and planes and radar and anti-aircraft systems that were sold to Libya or to Syria or to Iraq. This is cutting-edge military technology focused on defense. So anyone who wants to make war with Russia must be mad. Unfortunately, I cannot exclude that. So what can we do? Can we trust our politicians in Europe or in the Middle East or in America to change? For the vast majority, they are corrupt, incompetent, and as I said, sometimes criminal. Can we count on the people? A lot of them still have television. But you in this room are part of the millions of people today who are changing themselves, and then who are changing people around them, slowly. Unfortunately, slowly, but we cannot go faster because people are in denial. People want to continue to consume because it's pleasurable. The truth is hard, whether it's on a materialistic approach or on a spiritual approach. But we can reinform ourselves. We can re-educate ourselves. We can learn. We can read. And then we can act. And my humble approach, my humble advice that I explain in my books is, of course, that we can learn to be autonomous, or as autonomous as we can. Because when we're autonomous, we can be independent, and maybe we can be free, at least free from the slavers that are around, and more of them. So I explain how to build a sustainable autonomous base, which are based on reaching autonomy for water, for food, for medicine and health, on energy, on knowledge, in defense, and in social communities. And this is how I met the Sheikh. I was listening, very interesting, to many of the videos and of his speeches online. And I was surprised to hear that someone from such a different background, from an approach that is spiritual, of course, very educated, can come from the study of Islamic eschatology to reach the same conclusions that I did in a purely materialistic approach. So we met, shared ideas, shared thoughts, and we agree on the path. There are not 1,000 ways to do it. Maybe there is a a few materialistic approach to save our bodies, which humbly is only what I ambition to do. I cannot speak more than the materialistic approach. And of course, the Sheikh will go further into other ways to save ourselves. And therefore, it is also important that we meet today all together, because with understanding and with autonomy, we don't have fear. And therefore, when you don't have fear, you can build peace, and you can build dialogue, and you can maybe solve, the immense problems we're facing today. Because if we don't talk, and if we don't talk in peace, we will end up killing each other. And some people are just waiting for that, because you make a lot of money out of people killing each other. And even if they are crazy, which I think they are, it doesn't mean they're not going to try. So, my friends, today, it is really with humility that I'm here, and that I encourage all of us together to always dialogue, to not overreact to the news. Because when the news shows us people in Syria beheading people with a knife, it's meant to make us hate each other. When the media show in people making fun of other people's religions, it is made for us to hate each other. I've had threats today. I've received threats for this conference. And they say, why are you talking to a Muslim? Muslims are invading Europe. Muslims are taking over the world. I look around me. I look at TV presenters, politicians. I look at the people which I pay taxes to. I look at the general of the armies of NATO. I don't see Muslims. It doesn't mean there are no problems. It doesn't mean we don't have massive problems in which Muslim people are linked. But Islam is not my enemy. Islam is not a problem per se. Maybe people who claim to be Muslim can misbehave and create problems. Yes. But always we need to discuss first. And remember that the other alternative to peaceful discussion is war. And history shows that the wars are getting harder, with more death, more brutality, more savagery, and much less compassion than before. This is not Saladin or Richard Lionheart anymore. This is gas, artillery, massive destructions on civilians and everyone. So in the end, the choice is ours. For me, for you, for everyone. Are we going to go the easy way, which is to follow our pulsions and listen to the media and go to war? Or we say no? I say no. And that is what I hope that we will all do. And with this, j'espère que c'est ce que vous ferez également. But everyone has its choice. Vous avez tous votre choix. So with that, I would like to leave the tribune to the Honorable, Venerable Sheikh Imran Hosein, and which I must thank for writing the foreword of the Arabic version of my book, which you have never had. So this is your copy for you. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. We begin with Allah's blessed name. We praise Him and we glorify Him as He ought to be praised and glorified. And we pray for peace and for blessings on all his noble messengers, on our father Adam, our father Abraham and Moses, on Jesus, and on his mother, the Blessed Virgin Mary, and on the last of them all, the Blessed Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. My learned friend, Piero San Giorgio, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum and bonjour. I will speak slowly, even though we have someone to translate, pour te faire comprendre, pour te faire plaisir. I hope we have some Russians present here. I am truly happy to be here today in this room in which there is no more sitting space, and we have some of you standing because there are no seats. There are thousands, maybe millions, who are going to view this in different languages around the world. But there are 320 here, and we are very happy to be in your company today. I see the joy in your faces, I see the light in your faces, and I know we are in the company of those who love us. But it is a dangerous world. A world that is becoming increasingly dangerous for those who have the courage to proclaim the truth. For there are those who feel threatened when the truth is proclaimed. I'm happy to be in the company of Piero, who has the courage to proclaim the truth. And we do this today without fear of consequences. And the truth will resonate in the hearts of mankind whose hearts have not been brainwashed or corrupted. I'm particularly happy to have with us here those who are Orthodox Christians, because Orthodox Christians in particular, but not excluding other Christians, it seems to me that the Quran is pointing in a direction of friendship and alliance between Islam and Orthodox Christianity. And Russia today leads the Orthodox Christian world, and this is not to offend the Greek people. And so our topic, Islam, the petrodollar, and Russia's tryst with destiny. The petrodollar is a subject located in international monetary economics. I studied international monetary economics down the road, Rue de Lausanne, at the Graduate Institute of International Studies here in Geneva. My professor was not happy with me. I will refrain from mentioning his name. But I challenged him every single day in the classroom, because I had the Quran with me in the heart, and this is truth. And so he said to me one day, Mr. Hosein, you don't have to attend my class, you know. Just write the exam at the end of the year, which meant don't come back to my class. So I did not go back to his class. I wrote the exam at the end of the year, and I passed the exam. Russia's tryst with destiny is a subject located in politics, in monetary economics, in war and in peace, and in Christian eschatology. I'm happy to be here in Geneva to dialogue with Swiss secular scholarship. And there is so much in common between Piero's conclusions and ours. Imagine my happiness 2 years ago when I went to Moscow, and at the State University of Moscow I lectured, and sitting on my left-hand side was one of Russia's most eminent scholars of Christian eschatology. And he was astonished. There was so much in common between Islamic eschatology and Christian eschatology. And so tomorrow I don't know exactly when, maybe tomorrow is a month or 2 or 3 months from now, we go to Athens. We go to Athens to dialogue once more with Christian eschatology. The announcement will come on my website. And then an invitation from the University of Belgrade. And they're waiting for me there to continue the dialogue. And so we're happy to see a coming together of all people who are in pursuit of truth and who are prepared to denounce falsehood and oppression, regardless of the price we have to pay. Islamic eschatology is a brand new subject. So you'll not find many voices in the world of Islam using Islamic texts to analyze the petrodollar, to analyze the state of the world today. But before we turn to our Islamic eschatological view of the petrodollar and of Russia's tryst with destiny, let me turn to the modern West, the secular modern West. The German thinker and philosopher of history, Friedrich Hegel, is the scholar par excellence who has explained the philosophy of history of modern Western civilization. And what it says is the last is the best. And that all that came before modern Western civilization has been surpassed and superseded. All previous civilizations are now obsolete. They are moribund. They belong to the museums of history, and that includes Islam. That is their arrogant philosophy of history. But Arnold Toynbee, the British historian, politely differed. And I would like to recommend his book, Civilization on Trial. He disputed this philosophy of history. Arnold Toynbee, British historian, and the name of the book, Civilization on Trial. He disputed this philosophy of history because he was essentially Christian. He recognized a mysterious Western agenda at work to impose its dominion, political, economic, and otherwise, upon the world. He said, in his words, the land, the sea, the air, everything they want to rule. And because they want to do it by hook or by crook, he put the name of his book, Civilization on Trial. He discerned in modern Western civilization, at the heart of it, a claim to be the chosen people of the Lord Most High. That sounds like religion to me. That sounds like eschatology to me. We are the chosen people. And he also discerned a mysterious connection between an all-powerful modern Western civilization as the chosen people of the Lord Most High with an agenda that was mysteriously connected with the Holy Land. Islamic eschatology allowed us to see what Toynbee could see only dimly. Islamic eschatology has allowed us to see and recognize that which Toynbee could only see dimly, not because of any inadequacy on the part of Toynbee, But because it was too early to recognize the footprints that were being created by the arrogant West. Islamic eschatology is the study of the end time. The end time makes a distinction between the end of history and the end of the world. From the perspective of religion, history cannot end without the final and conclusive triumph of truth over all rivals, over justice, of justice over oppression. That is the end of history. The end of the world will come when the mountains will be like pieces of cotton wool, and the earth will speak and will tell you who did 9/11. The end of the world will come when we'll be resurrected. And whether we believe it or we don't, we're going to have to stand up and answer for the life that we led. And the poor of the world cannot wait for that day to come. The reason why Europe is being flooded with refugees is because those who want to rule the world have decided that their strategy must be to rule the world of money. It's not happening by accident. And our seminar today directs attention to the world of money. Islamic eschatology could not emerge as a developed subject before the creation of the Zionist movement in 1897. It is since 1987 that events have continuously unfolded in the world, which allowed the discerning thinker and scholar to connect the dots of history and to read history differently from what is taught in universities. With the Quran and with the word of the Prophet, Allah's blessings be upon him, we have discovered within modern Western civilization a stage-by-stage progression to a goal that is located in the Holy Land. We have discerned, for example, you'll find in my book, Jerusalem in the Quran, part of the story, that the mastermind who created modern Western civilization brought into being Britain as a ruling state with Pax Britannica, except that it wasn't Pax, it wasn't peace. It was war and bloodshed. And brought into being the sterling pound as the first step of the process of ruling the world of money. But at the same time that he created Britain as a ruling state over the world, he did something also in the world of Islam. He created the Ottoman Empire to do what Britain was doing, to establish his rule over the world of Islam. And some of you may not like this, but to do his dirty work for him. And it is time for Islamic scholarship to wake up and to recognize the essentially evil nature of the Ottoman Empire, playing a sinister role in sabotaging an end-time alliance between the world of Islam and Orthodox Christianity, located in the Quran.